and backbone of Talk Shop,
Yeah.
Mary Lou Nowak. The owner of Mid-SouthHomeHelpers and founder of Resource for Care ML, Mary Lou Nowak, has over 30 years of operations, human resources, and management experience, plus a specialized education in industrial and labor relations from Cornell University. A proven ability to solve complex business and employment challenges creatively is the inspiration for the Resource for Care staffing solution. Mary Lou's success in owning and operating a profitable in-home private care agency for the last 7 years provides the intimate understanding of the challenges managing an hourly workforce during the ups and downs of client census. Our founder also has previously demonstrated these abilities by saving $1.6 million for a 500-bed hospital by reducing reliance of outside agency employment as recruitment and retention director. Mary Lou most recently was on the board of the Professional Network on Aging as marketing director and is sought after for creative ideas and solutions. Experience combined with being a consistent student of technology and innovation gave birth to the innovative solution provided by Resource for Care. And now Mary Lou is also pursuing her passion to help people live fearlessly as a fearless living life coach. Let's give it up for Mary Lou.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I'm so excited to be here today. Thank you so much. And today we're going to be talking about stretching beyond your comfort zone. But first, I have a question, and I'd like you to grab a piece of paper and write down the answer, or actually better yet, put it right in the chat. And I don't know, maybe Susan, would you help me by kind of getting a tally of what the answers are? Because there's two choices, okay? So the question is, what comes first, confidence or risk-taking? So go ahead, don't dwell on it, just write down which one comes to mind first as being first. Is it confidence or risk-taking? Okay, so jot that down and we'll come back to that later. Susan, I didn't arrange for this ahead of time, so I'm hoping you can just maybe keep an eye out on chat. That would be really helpful. If not, we can scan back through later. Now you're also going to need a piece of paper and a pen or a pencil, writing utensil. So go ahead and grab that. And while you're doing that, I just wanted to share that I'm really committed to helping people be fearless. And anyone interested in being a little more, is anyone here interested maybe in being a little more fearless? Anyone have some fear?
Yes.
Of course, we all do, right? Everybody does. So it's in our nature to want to grow as human beings, but sometimes we get stuck, like we doubt ourselves, or we worry or get overwhelmed. That's fear. Now, people don't walk around saying, I'm afraid, or I'm fearful. I mean, unless it's a physical situation. But when you hear someone saying, I'm worried, I feel guilty, I have regret, I haven't been able to say I'm sorry, I want somebody else to say they're sorry to me, but I don't know how to ask. These are all words and all comments and thoughts that point out that there's some kind of fear stopping us, right? Do we hear ourselves maybe saying that? Well, I'm worried about this meeting, or I feel guilty about not following through. I don't know if you want to unmute or just give a show of hands. I can't really see everybody, but can we connect on that and recognize that that's actually fear speaking?
Yes.
So what I want to show today is just part of a tool that I use with everyone that I work with to help become more fearless. And the exercise, and what we're going to use the piece of paper for, is called an exercise of stretch, risk, and die. So the first thing I need you to do is draw a large circle on that piece of paper. And I'm going to go to my example. Let's see, share screen. How do I do that?
You want to make sure that your PowerPoint is already open on your task.
Yes, it is.
Bar. Then go
Yes,
down
it
to the
is.
toolbar and click share screen. And then it'll open and you'll click on your task. Your taskbar will open up and you'll click on
The problem is I minimized my video here. So let me just, okay, share screen. There we go.
We don't see it.
Here's 1 second. I got to click on it. You got it now?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
give me a minute.
Just took a risk.
Okay, let's see. Slideshow and start from the beginning. Okay, so here's our topic. And there's the circle. So the next thing I need you to do is draw an inner circle and then a third circle. So our goal here is to have a bullseye. So you should have a large circle, a second smaller circle, and then a center circle. And as I'm showing on the screen here, what we want to write in the center is comfort zone. Okay. Now let me see here. Okay. I'm going to stop the sharing for a minute and go to my notes. All right. So a comfort zone. Let's talk a little bit about what actually a comfort zone is. Now, a comfort zone doesn't mean we're comfortable. Okay, it's not some vision of somebody in an easy chair with the remote and any drink or food that they want near them, and they're just totally comfortable. I don't know if that's your vision of comfort, but whatever that is. A comfort zone is where we are now. It's what we do on our daily basis, how we operate in our daily lives. So, for example, if we are overwhelmed, but we want change, but the things that we need to do in order to get or have that change are beyond our ability, or we're fearful of it, that's our comfort zone. So for example, if your business is generating, let's say $20,000 and you want it to be a $100,000 revenue for you, but there might be some things that you need to do in order to generate that type of volume of sales or profit, but you just haven't been able to do those things for whatever reason. They're just not happening. That is your comfort zone. So it doesn't mean it's comfortable, but it means that's where you are now. All right. I'm trying to be a techie here, and it's not my strong suit. Okay. Now the next, and you might have seen it on the screen because it popped up. The next circle should be labeled your stretch. So go ahead and write stretch in that next circle outside of just beyond. Do you need me to show it? It's pretty straightforward. Or do you want me to share my screen? Let's see. Anyway, I don't see it. I must have closed it. Okay. All right. So that next circle, there we go. All right. is the stretch zone. And the stretch zone are the things that you know you can do, but you just haven't done them. So let's say, for example, your comfort zone, you're a certain weight and you want to get healthier or you want to exercise. And you know one of those things is eating more vegetables. And you know you can do it. I mean, everybody could eat a vegetable, you know, physically, pretty much, but you just don't do it. So that's your stretch zone, things that you know you can do, but for whatever reason, you haven't done them. You know, maybe we just know that walking around the block every day would help our health, but for whatever reason, we don't do them. And this especially is a place, this zone of things that we know we can do, but just don't do them, is really a place where a lot of people are very mean to themselves because they know they can do it. So, you know, when we talk to ourselves and just beat ourselves up of why didn't I go for a walk today? It was a beautiful day. It affects our self-esteem. It robs us of motivation. And that's really fear coming up. What's wrong with me? Why can't I do this? And you're beating yourself up. Now, the risk zone is the next circle. And the risk zone are things that in your life, you just aren't sure that you can do. Maybe you've done them in the past, but now there's some limitations. Maybe you used to run marathons, and that is not in your ability right now because of your health or whatever. So you just don't know, am I going to be able to do this? That's the risk zone. And then that area, that the edge of the paper outside of the risk circle, is the die zone. And yes, I mean die zone, because that's the area or things that, oh my gosh, if I have to do this, I think I'll die. So for somebody, it might be running a marathon. For someone else, it might be public speaking. Oh my goodness, right? I have to get up in front of this group of professionals and pretend I know what I'm talking about. No way, I can't do this. I would rather die first. That's your die zone. So there is an entire course in the Fearless Living Institute devoted to how to move through each of these zones, how to come from your comfort zone to your stretch, to your risk, and onto your die, and onto things that before would have been a die for you. But of course, I can't even describe how long or time, you know, how much time that would take. So today we're just going to touch on the surface. Only one or two things or tools that really could support movement through each of these circles or each of these places, and apply them just from moving from your comfort zone to a stretch. So for the sake of, you know, today, rather than have everyone think, and well, I want you to be thinking about what is it that you know you can do, but you just haven't done it. You know, maybe it's, you know, like Susan just rebranded, you know, maybe that was a stretch for her, or someone learning a new skill, that might be a stretch. So think of something as we're talking through this example that applies to you. But for this purpose, I'm going to talk about someone creating a budget. Now, for some of us, having a budget is not a big deal. We live and breathe by a budget. You know, we don't make a decision without consulting our budget. But for others, money and managing money and having a budget is a big deal. It's a die for some people. So your comfort zone might be that, and this is, again, comfort zone is not where you're comfortable, but just where you are at. So maybe someone's comfort zone having to do with a budget is, I just, if I want it and I see it, I go with my gut, I use my intuition and I buy it. Or if I see somewhere I want to go, I just go ahead and do it. And I just trust myself and that's it. But then they realize at some point, maybe, that they're living paycheck to paycheck. And that's not really where they want to be. And they know that creating a budget or being aware of their expenses would be something that they can do, but why haven't they done it, right? That's fear. That's fear. So a stretch might be, okay, coming from spending money wherever you want, whenever you want. A stretch or reaching towards a stretch might be just keeping receipts, right? That's easy for people to do. So it doesn't take skill. You don't have to be involved with mathematics and understand costs of things or budgeting. Just putting your receipts all in one place might be a stretch for you. And it's something they can just do and, you know, keep a Ziploc in their purse. And every time they buy something, they just stick it in that little Ziploc. Now, a risk in this situation may be writing down all the things they can think of that they would need to do in order to create a budget. So, for example, there might be 10 or 15 or 20 things, like, for example, maybe creating a spreadsheet. And if Mark Loden was here, he probably could give us a list of 10, 20 or so things that go into creating a budget. So in doing this and taking a risk, you are then putting boundaries on your purchases, right? So as that's the benefit of taking the risk. Taking the time to map these things out and creating the budget is going to be something that allows you to put boundaries on your purchases, and then you don't get to the end of the month or end of the paycheck and say, I'm out of money. Now I can't pay my rent. So, and doing all that I just described could be a dive for someone, you know. So the first thing we can do, the first tool that we can use to help us move from comfort to stretch to risk is to first be aware and recognize the words of fear. And I mentioned them earlier, right? I'm worried, I feel guilty, I regret, I haven't been able to. So when you're in that situation where you're hearing yourself say that, or now that you know the words of fear, you hear other people say those things out loud, that's when the light bulb should go on now to say that person has some amount of fear involved with this situation. So again, the first thing that we can do to help us learn how to move outside our comfort zone and expand and move into a stretch is to know what fear is. Now, speaking of what fear is there's science behind fear, okay? So it's proven scientifically that your brain does not know the difference between a physical fear and an emotional fear. So if you have a physical fear, you have some horrific thing happening physically that you're afraid, your brain doesn't know the difference between that and between a fear of public speaking. Your body does the same thing. Some people react in flight mode. Some people react in fight mode or freeze mode. So when you get into a situation with fear, it's good to have grace for yourself. I think people give themselves a little leeway when it's an obvious fear. You know, the truck's coming at you, and if you don't move, you might get hit by the truck, right? But how much grace are we giving ourselves, right? When we feel that same feeling, your heart skips a beat, the heat comes from inside, you start generating a lot of heat. I don't know, that's a fear response for me. I start getting really warm and my face gets flushed. I might get frozen. I might not be able to react, right? Or I might just go, I'm out of here, flight. It's the same responses, regardless of whether a truck's about to hit you, or whether you're doing something that's outside your comfort zone, that smaller circle. So that goes into the second tool of helping yourself move from one to the other, and that is giving yourself some grace. I mean, how often, especially entrepreneurs, right? We're go-getters, right? We're out there making things happen. How much grace are we giving ourselves and space to recognize that maybe there's an obstacle, maybe there's a fear involved, maybe there's something that's keeping us from doing it, that it doesn't make us a bad person, doesn't make us stupid, or those silly words that we say to ourselves. So the next thing when we recognize those words or we recognize those feelings is to really just say, and even out loud, you don't even have to, especially if you're fearful of people being around, say it into your pillow or go into the ladies' or men's room and say, okay, fear, I see you. Thanks for having my back. Because, fear just wants to protect you. That's what fear does. Fear just wants to keep you where you're at so that you're safe, so you don't have those scary feelings. So after you recognize it's happening, the next thing you can do is just acknowledge that you see it. I see you. I appreciate you. Thanks for having my back, but I got this. Thanks very much, but I have it. The next action that we can take to help us move outside of comfort or to stretch or to risk is to acknowledge ourselves. Now, high achievers, which most entrepreneurs are, we tend to only acknowledge ourselves when we achieve some greatness, when we do something stupendous, something that we intrinsically are very proud of or surprised that we could do. But what I'm suggesting instead is that you acknowledge any movement, even if it's just a thought. If it's a new thought that you haven't thought before, that hasn't entered your mind previously. I got 8 minutes, okay. If it hasn't entered your mind previously, that is something to acknowledge yourself for. And I very much suggest writing down or having the habit of writing down these acknowledgements, because you forget them. And in your times of stress or fear, these are things that you can look back on and see that you're making progress. And again, that goes to having grace for yourself. Just any movement forward, anything that has you either thinking or doing something different should be something that you acknowledge yourself for. Now, what I talked about today is just a small part of fearless living, but I have been a student of this program or Fearless Living Institute for a long time. And I'm afraid to tell you how long, because I'm wondering whether you're going to say, well, shouldn't she be better at it by now? Or shouldn't she be finished with the course? So no matter how fearless someone is, it still is in your life. It's a protection mechanism to keep you from feeling uncomfortable. So even today, in preparing for this, right, this was something that was fearful to me. I'm going to go out and I'm going to say to at least it feels like the world, my little world of Talk Shop, I'm going to share what I've been studying for years. I'm going to admit I've been studying it for years. And then I'm going to say to the world, I really am passionate about helping other people get fearless. Well, that was a risk for me. If not, maybe a die. I'm on that border. So right now, I am in a specific program. It's 9 months long. I'm called a program candidate. So I don't graduate until the end of 9 months. And there's a dozen of us in this current semester, if you want a course right now. They typically run it twice a year, but there's 12 of us that are program candidates, and we're going through this together to become a certified fearless living coach. And as program candidates, part of our training is to log at least 75 hours of coaching, one-on-one coaching, or coaching in a group following, as like in a book club, following the Fearless Living book that was published. It's an award-winning book by Rhonda Britton. So one or the other, either individual coaching or conducting a book club. So there's 12 of us. So after hearing, I mean, this is just a little bit of what it's all about. I hope I relate it in a good light. But if anyone is interested in pursuing fearless living or being more fearless and wants to be a study client with one of the 12, it's not me, especially people I know. I'm looking to probably work with people I don't know. But there's 12 of us, and every one of us needs 75 hours worth of coaching time within the 9 months that we're in the program. And typically, to run through the full coaching, it's 12 weeks. It doesn't have to be consecutive weeks or anything, but for each person, and it's free. There's no cost. Oh, I take that back. If I would suggest buying the book. I think it's $15 on Amazon, and you'll need it in order to follow along. So I just wanted to share that I'm one of 12. And if anyone is interested, just reach out to me. You know, you can, I think everybody has my information, and I will pass your contact information and your level of interest on. Thank you, Joe. And I will make the Fearless Living Institute aware that you might be interested. And then they can talk with you directly about it and explain it in more detail. And if it's something you're interested in, you can pursue it. And again, it's absolutely no cost other than purchasing the book. I think it's $15 or $17. And that's, getting back to the first question that I asked. Susan, do we have a count?
We do. We have 6 chose risk first and 5 chose confidence first.
Ooh, we're 50-50 almost. So in Fearless Living, we learn how to take risks through some of the examples that I mentioned and others. And it's actually taking risk. If we don't do anything different than what we're doing, right? It's so hard to take risks, right? So where are you going to get the confidence from? And it's actually the reverse. The more risks that you're willing to take, not on your own, not unsupported, not without tools, but the more risks you're willing to take, the more confident you will be. So if you're waiting and beating yourself up over the fact that you don't have the confidence to stretch, risk, or take what you would consider a die, it's because you need more tools and you need support and you need grace for yourself in order to take the risks in order to become confident. Thank you guys so much. And I'm open to any questions that you might have.
Can you say that last statement again, Mary Lou?
So let me see if I can. So the more support that you get in taking risks, in giving yourself grace and acknowledging yourself, and with other tools, the more confident you will be.
Mhm.
Albert Porter asked, what's the name of the book and the author again?
It's called Fearless Living. And the author is Rhonda Britton, Brittten. And Rhonda Britton is an Emmy Award winner. She had a TV show called Starting Over, where she helped women that have had some tragedies and challenges in her lives. She has a very interesting story. So even just reading about her is interesting. And she's been perfecting her curriculum. And I know that from personal experience because I've been following it for about 20 years. And that was a risk for me to admit that.
Miranda, I'm sorry, Mary Lou. That was, that was an amazing presentation.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely excellent. You know, I was 50-50 on the risk confidence. I didn't know which one to put because it seems like you've got to have enough confidence to take the risk. And by taking the risk and seeing that it didn't kill you, you gain more confidence. So
Right.
I couldn't decide between them.
Yeah.
Mary Lou, you talk about grace, and I'm just curious, some of us give ourselves probably too much grace and procrastinate. Is there just a quick snap on the wrist to make us quit procrastinating?
No.
Oh, that was okay. Guess I got to
No,
take the course.
because grace, when I say grace, I mean giving yourself a break, not dodging something or holding off on something. Meaning, there's a reason why. There's a reason why you're not doing it. It's not that you're stupid, not that you're lazy, not that you're a bum, or whatever it is you say to yourself. That's not it. And so, rather than taking or snapping yourself on the wrist, it's more about being gentle with yourself, recognizing that there is something there that's stopping you from doing it, and learning the tools to help you get through that. When you help yourself get through that, then the other thing happens.
Mary Lou, how do we contact you?
I put my information in the chat. There's multiple ways. I do have a website. Well, it's better just to call me. My number for resource for care is 901-379-6870.
Okay.
Mary Lou, could I get your comment? I would